Hey, how's it going everyone? This is the Anime Man. Welcome to another episode of the monthly Otaku collection for March 2017. If you guys don't know what this is a monthly show where at the end of each month, I go through some of the things that have happened on my channel, some of the anime, manga stuff that I guess I didn't have enough time to show you guys in a video, or just some new, cool and interesting anime merch and goods that I may have happened to collect during the month. So far we're on the third month and I still haven't missed a month yet, so I'm already doing better than last year. But let's start off with channel updates, which I know is probably the most boring for a lot of you guys, so I'll keep it brief. To be honest, we're at the end of the third month of the year, and this has probably been, I guess, the most uneventful month of the year. I mean, January I was in Australia, February I was in Las Vegas, and March I was just at home doing my thing. So when it comes to like what happened on the channel during March, just a whole bunch of videos came out, that's about it. I did do a bunch of, I guess, side projects, which I'll leave the link to all of those in the description, so if you have time, go check it out. But some announcements for next month, just in case you missed it. I will be attending Anime Matsuri next month, literally next week from now. Wow, that's scary. In Houston, Texas, I will be at 3 group panels, and I will also be debuting my very first solo panel where I'm just up on a stage by myself talking to you guys, so that should be pretty fun. Again, I did a whole video on all the explanations, so if you like the details to all of that, then I guess click that eye on the screen right now. And because this month was kind of a little bit non-eventful and I didn't really go out to like do shopping or any of that kind of stuff, I don't really have any merch to show you, but I figured since we are approaching the end of the winter 2017 anime season, it is about to draw to a close, and hopefully I will have the seasonal roundup of this closing season coming out next month sometime. I thought today I'd talk about a topic which I think kind of spans from that. To keep it very brief, because I want to leave a lot of it for the seasonal roundup, this season I found was very, very strong in terms of comedy. There are a lot of great comedy series that spawned from this season, which really kind of brought the anime community back alive again. And it kind of inspired me to actually go around and actually read and watch a bunch of comedy series, or as much as I could. But I feel I've never like properly talked about comedy series. I mean, there are very, very old videos where I talked about comedy series, but I feel there are just a lot of comedy series that I guess maybe kind of go unnoticed, especially when it comes to comedy manga. And I know a lot of you guys have been asking in like Answer Me Senpais about, you know, like my manga taste and my serious anime taste and stuff like that, which I have always swerved around with just cynical bullshit. So I decided to dedicate a monthly Otaku favorites to talk about my personal, as of right now, top 5 comedy manga that you guys should all give a go. And don't worry, I'm not going to do like full-length reviews of them, otherwise, you know, this video is going to be like half an hour long, and I know you guys can't fucking stand that kind of shit. So let's begin. The first series I'd like to talk about is actually an ongoing comedy series, which I only found quite recently, and I honestly don't remember how I heard about it. I guess I maybe just found it while I was surfing online, but it is a manga series called Grand Blue. If I were to say it very, very simply, it reminds me very, very much of Prison School. Now, some of you guys might know Prison School. It became an anime series, which was absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. If you haven't seen or read Prison School, I highly recommend it. That is also another great comedy series. But if you enjoyed Prison School, then I think you'll really, really enjoy Grand Blue, especially if you enjoyed, I guess, the visual comedy and the flow of jokes in terms of a manga style. What I really enjoy about Grand Blue is that not only are the jokes actually funny, and I've actually laughed out loud a number of times at some of the jokes, which in my opinion is actually quite rare in a manga series. Like, most times I would read a comedy manga and the best reaction you would get out of me is like, but it's not often I actually laugh out loud, and I definitely think not only are the jokes strong and the punchline is strong, but the way that the jokes flow, especially in series like Grand Blue, are really, really powerful. There is kind of an art style that is just set in stone, especially when it comes to the female characters, which are, by the way, drawn fucking beautifully. I love that style. It's like serious, but it also has kind of like a poppy kind of twist to it, where it's the kind of style that you see in a lot of shonen manga, but also a few seinen manga as well. What I love about the characters in Grand Blue especially, and the visual style in Grand Blue, is that when it comes to really serious situations, the art style stays the same, but whenever a character is expressing some kind of emotion, that emotion is really over-exaggerated. Like, if the main character is angry, then you know he's fucking angry. When he's embarrassed, he's really fucking embarrassed. And the manga artist really manages to kind of morph and shape the whole face and even the whole body to really show that character's emotion. Which I think is really important, especially because things like manga don't have movement to show that kind of emotion and really only rely on what you immediately see as a static image, unlike is the case with anime. When it comes to the synopsis, it's very simple. Main character graduates from an all-boys school, he goes to a new university, and he decides to live with, I guess, his like cousins and like uncles and aunts who join or who own this diving club called Grand Blue, which is also connected to the diving club, which is part of the university that he's attending, but he didn't really want to join the diving club, but kind of gets forced to along the way. And then shenanigans ensue. Again, if you really enjoyed series like Prison School, then this is the fucking manga for you. Honestly, I would not be surprised if within the next year or two, this series is going to be a anime series, which is going to be just as successful as Prison School was. Number 2 comedy anime, which I have mentioned in a couple of videos, is Boku no Watashi no Yushagaku. Now, if you watch my double seasonal roundup of the summer and fall 2016 anime season, links in the description, then you may know that I introduced this series when I was talking about a particular series called Saikikuso no Psi-nan, which again is an absolutely hilarious anime series which comes from an equally hilarious manga series. Boku no Watashi no Yushagaku, however, is the first series that the mangaka for Saikikuso no Psi-nan ever made before he wrote this one. Now, in all seriousness, I'm not too sure if the style of comedy can be properly translated into English. I've read a lot of comedy manga in the past, and I've read it and I've actually had this like fun exercise of trying to translate it in my head just to see what it would sound like in English if I ever had to explain the joke to a friend of mine. And a lot of the times, it doesn't quite transition as well as I'd thought. And I find that since Boku no Watashi no Yushagaku is quite a heavy dialogue-based comedy, as is the case also with Saikikuso no Psi-nan, I feel that it might not be as funny to you guys if you read it in English, but if you read it in Japanese, where the speech patterns and the way that dialogue is presented in, I guess, a very unique Japanese way, that's what makes the manga, in my opinion, absolutely hilarious. The art style is not all that fantastic, especially when you compare it to series like the previous Grand Blue. But again, this series is heavily dialogue-based comedy rather than visual-based comedy. While there is visual-based comedy, it is usually just an accompaniment to whatever the said joke is rather than the shown joke is. The basic synopsis is pretty simple but pretty ridiculous at the same time. Main character is a regular high school boy with regular classmates, and he gets a new teacher for the new semester who ends up being a hero. And through all these kinds of shenanigans, the hero teacher ends up creating a hero club, which the main character is yet again forced into, and shenanigans ensue. The main character is always forced into these kinds of situations, I've noticed. Maybe that's just my clique. What I love about this series is not only the fact that the main character is very, very good in terms of, I guess, bundling all the very, very unique side characters together, as is the case with a lot of this author's work. But I love the fact that these characters are so wacky, yet they're so relatable. It's like you're watching a bunch of friends just hanging out and causing shenanigans rather than a bunch of characters. So if you're into that kind of comedy and you manage to figure out the jokes in English, because I honestly have never read it in English, so maybe if the translators do a good enough job, it might be funny to you guys. Regardless, I definitely recommend you check this manga out. Number 3 on the list is a series which I guess I have talked about in the past, but I've never really gone into detail as to why. This is probably one of my favorite comedy manga series of all time, and that is Bobobo-bo Bo-bobo. As a fan of the series who went into it from the original manga, I'm just gonna say right now, do not watch the anime of this. I feel they missed so much of the core comedy in Bobobo-bo Bo-bobo, the manga series, when translating it and, I guess, adapting it into an anime. For one thing, they made the anime extremely kid-friendly. While yes, the original manga series was serialized on Shonen Jump, which, as the name suggests, is a shonen, so it is, for more of the better words, kid-friendly, especially when you compare it to seinen manga or adult manga. But in the anime, they really, really kidified it. Like, they got rid of all blood or violence. And they got rid of a lot of jokes which are, I guess, kind of grotesque or, you know, jokes that I guess little kids wouldn't have understood. Unfortunately, they turned the anime basically into a kids anime more than a shonen anime. Meanwhile, the manga series is balls to the fucking walls, what the fuck is going on kind of comedy. There will be a build up of a joke that's coming and you turn to the next page and you will see something that you would never have imagined in your life. I think the author of this series did some serious drugs while he was making Bobobo-bo-bobo, because I look at some of these panels and I'm like, how do you think up of that? Unlike the previous Boku no Watashi to Yushagaku series, I find Bobobo-bo Bo-bobo is a lot more of a slapstick kind of humor. It's an action comedy, so a lot of the action is just filled to the brim with surreal comedy that you would just like, I don't get what is going on, but all I know is that it is fucking stupidly hilarious. I've heard a lot of people say that this manga or this series in general is so fucking stupid. But I actually think that is exactly the point of the series. It's supposed to be so fucking stupid to the point where it's just funny. You know, I do enjoy my wordplay when it comes to manga, and I do enjoy my really nice artwork and nice presentation of jokes. But sometimes I just like to go back to just poop jokes, honestly, and I believe Bobobo-bo Bo-bobo is like the poop joke of comedy manga. It's so immature, it's so stupid, it's so just absolutely mental, but it's so funny. So again, I don't really recommend you go check out the anime because, again, it's not that great, and also I think the voice actors are kind of shit. But go check out the manga. It is absolutely fucking hilarious. There are 2 seasons of it. I've read all of them. I actually own all of them back at home. I highly recommend you go check it out. Number 4 comedy manga is Azumanga Daioh. Now this one is a classic. I'm sure a lot of people have this manga series up on their like top manga list or even their top anime list. For me though, I want to focus more on the manga because I actually got into the manga more rather than the anime adaptation. While yes, I did enjoy the anime adaptation, again, much like with Bobobo-bo Bo-bobo, I find the adaptation missed a lot of core points. For those of you who don't know, Azumanga Daioh is originally a 4-koma manga or 4-panel manga, which means that each chapter is compiled of short stories that only usually make up about 4 panels. But I find the author of Azumanga Daioh kind of perfected the way of creating, I guess, dry humor 4-panel manga. The comedy in Azumanga Daioh is very dry, where depending on who reads it, some people will just see it as a comedy, like it's fucking hilarious, while other people won't exactly get what is the joke and will rather just see it as a slice of life. But I honestly think that was, again, the whole point of the manga series. It's supposed to depict the kind of weird, surreal shenanigans and kind of poke fun at common high school tropes in terms of high school manga. Like, yes, some of the delivery is dry and it's not exactly like a bam, here's the punchline, but rather you read through the flow of the 4 panels and by the end of it, it kind of just drifts away and just kind of leaves you hanging like, hey, did you get that? While yes, comedy is subjective, I definitely think that these kinds of 4-panel manga comedy and like this kind of dry comedy, especially in series like Azumanga Daioh, are actually quite difficult to do well. But I believe Azumanga Daioh has done it pretty fucking well. Because what's great about Azumanga Daioh is that yes, even though you may not exactly get a particular joke in a story, it's still fun to watch. It's much like Boku no Watashi no Yushagaku, where it's like you're just watching a bunch of your friends just doing shenanigans and just fucking kicking the shit. The characters are cute, a lot of them kind of exceed expectations of tropes, which is, I guess, the point of the whole satirical look on high school girl tropes in anime and manga. And the art style is cute and bubbly. It's very simplistic, very minimalistic, but I find it absolutely hilarious. So I would definitely recommend you go check out the manga and the anime adaptation as well. And the 5th and final comedy manga series, which is my favorite and I would definitely like to recommend to you guys, and I feel not a lot of people properly have talked about it, is a little series called Sket Dance. Now there might be a few of you who are like, Joey, how dare you incorporate Sket Dance into the list, but you don't incorporate Gintama. They're the same fucking thing. For those of you who don't know, there is another comedy series called Gintama, which is a fucking fan favorite in the anime community. As is mine. I fucking love the comedy in Gintama in both the manga series and the anime adaptation is just godlike. But again, I feel too many people are talking about Gintama. They already know about Gintama, but unfortunately they don't know a whole lot about Sket Dance. For those of you who don't know, the connection between the two is that the author of Sket Dance, Shinohara Kenta, used to be an assistant for the author of Gintama, Sorachi Hideaki. And of course, because Shinohara used to work under Sorachi, he kind of incorporated his style of comedy and his flow of comedy. So a lot of people have looked at Sket Dance and just kind of labeled it as a Gintama reskin. Reskinning the setting of a Edo period and all the samurais and just replacing it with a modern time high school. I get that. But I find that the comedy in Sket Dance does also have a very unique twist that Shinohara Kenta has put on it. Both series are essentially just a collection of the 4 types of comedy laid out in the 4 types of manga series that I've mentioned in this video. We have the visual comedy from Grand Blue, the dialogue comedy from Boku no Watashi no Yushagaku, we have the slapstick comedy from Bobobo-bo Bo-bobo, and we have the dry comedy from Azumanga Daioh. But what I especially love about Sket Dance is the fact that it is set in a modern day high school, which I think really solidifies the point I've made a couple of times in this video of relating to the characters. It's a little bit closer to home to see high school kids in a modern setting going shenanigans and going about their absolutely wacky adventures rather than a samurai in the Edo period, but it's been overtaken by aliens. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Gintama fucking sucks at world building or anything like that. Quite the opposite actually. I can make a whole fucking video about why Gintama is fucking amazing at world building. But right now we're focusing on the comedy, and I personally have laughed out a lot more by reading Sket Dance rather than reading Gintama. There's something about the way that Shinohara Kenta also incorporates human drama into it all through its flashbacks of its different characters. And somehow incorporating comedy into those flashbacks as well, but making it so that it really melds in with the drama rather than existing as 2 separate entities. And that's what I love about both series, but especially Sket Dance, is that there's so much variety in terms of the different jokes that it presents. We have some panels in Sket Dance where it's just completely filled with like 6 or 7 voice bubbles where like there is multiple jokes happening in the one panel between multiple characters. And then we have some panels which is just completely speech bubbleless and it is purely just put in there as a visual comedy. And so you go about reading it and you can go about binging the entire series and you don't feel tired of the same kinds of jokes. Even within the same story, there is always a new kind of joke and a new way of presenting an even old kind of joke to make it feel like a new joke. And honestly, even during the serious arcs in Sket Dance, which there are many of, Shinohara is able to throw in little bits and pieces of jokes, which are genuinely hilarious, but again, don't take you out of the experience of the fact that this is a dramatic arc rather than just a purely comedy one-shot arc. So again, I'm not saying that Sket Dance is better than Gintama, but I definitely think both these series have their own strengths in terms of comedy, and me personally, I would rather read Sket Dance rather than Gintama. But that doesn't mean I won't read Gintama. Don't worry, Gintama fans. I fucking love Gintama, don't you worry. But guys, that's gonna do it for my monthly Otaku collection of March 2017. I know this kind of just turned out more to be just a top 5 comedy manga video, which really I could have just made a separate video for. Hopefully I was concise enough and hopefully I wasn't dragging on for too long with this kind of stuff. So let me know in the comments below, guys, how your month has been first of all. Maybe let me know in the comments below what your favorite video was of mine from this month, and also let me know in the comments below what you thought of my top 5 comedy manga as of right now. Do you know some of them? Maybe you want to go check some of them out, and if there are any more comedy manga that I guess I haven't read yet or you think I should go out and read, then let me know all that kind of stuff in the comments below. Anyways guys, thanks for watching.